Hello and welcome to Camp Xbox. The Xbox has no shortage of great racing games, from Forza to Project Gotham Racing, but the Burnout series is one of the best multi-platform titles it has. Both 2 and 3 are well-known high-octane racing games for the console. Not many people talk about the first one in the series that started it all. I played through it recently, so let me tell you how I felt about it and give you some history and lasting impact. All footage was captured off of an original Xbox, and I'd like to thank my YouTube channel members for their support. But let's go ahead and hop into Burnout's history. The story starts with developer Criterion Games, a developer who had worked on many vehicular-based games, starting with the vehicle combat game Scorched Planet in 1996. Over the rest of the decade, they would release games like Redline Racer, and one that I'm fond of, Trick Style, in 1999. As the new millennium rolled around, Alex Ward had been inspired by films like Ronin and the short film titled C'était un Rendezvous, a short film that had a camera strapped to the front of a speeding car in Paris. He was also inspired by driving games like Thrill Drive and Crazy Taxi. He combined these to work towards a game with the working title Shiny Red Car, which also was known as Driving Hero during its development. It was a game that lets you drive face first into traffic and reward you for dodging cars. It would be easily accessible over Gran Turismo, which Ward found to be good only for car lovers and video game fans. As 2001 rolled around, Burnout was shown at E3 but behind closed doors. In August, they announced that it would be coming to PS2 on November 1st, 2001 in North America and the 16th in Europe. It would be published by Acclaim. It was released to good reviews, and after a few months, it was announced that it was coming to both Xbox and GameCube in 2002. They did have early versions of the Xbox and were able to develop for it, but they didn't have early versions of the GameCube. And once they realized that the Xbox version wouldn't be ready for its launch, they decided to coincide both the Xbox and GameCube release. On April 30th, 2002, Burnout debuted on the Xbox and GameCube. It would come out on May 3rd in Europe, and personally, I have never played this game before. I've played the other entries, but this one has always eluded me. So I gave it a playthrough recently to see where this legendary franchise began, and let me tell you about my experience breaking it down, starting with the gameplay. Burnout is an arcade racer at its roots. You pick from a selection of cars that range from easy to hard. You take these cars and race them on the open streets. You dodge cars while racing others, and if you wreck, you rack up damages and lose momentum in the race. Driving dangerously by missing cars and driving on the wrong side of the road will add to your boost meter, which will help you gain an edge in the race. This is what Burnout is all about and nothing else. It doesn't have to be anything more, and I think striving for this simplicity helps make this fun and an easy to understand racer. It's not a simulation racing game at all, it's pure arcade. You hit the right trigger to accelerate and you turn. You brake sometimes, but otherwise, it's just pure adrenaline, and it handles surprisingly well. I think it helps give this game a replay factor despite its difficulty. The primary championship mode is challenging, no matter what difficulty you play. It has nothing to do with controls and only a little bit for the tracks, but it mainly has to do with the NPCs. In championship mode, you move from track to track, race from start to finish, and hit checkpoints. You only get a few retries, and your rivals are brutal. It's a type of racing game with rubber banding. Here, no matter what lead you have, they will stay right behind you. Generally, this is okay, but here it feels unfair. For one, when you get into a wreck, it changes the whole race. You can be knocked back so far from a wreck, but your opponent will wreck right in front of you, and they will get hardly any penalty. It gives them an unfair edge, and challenge is fun, but being unfair feels like it's wasting your time, especially with long courses. Courses in this game have 3-minute laps, leading to 9-minute and upward races. Imagine being almost done with your last lap, hitting an unmissable wreck just to lose it all, even if you drove a perfect game. Yet your rival could hit that same wreck at the same time, and they still have a really good chance to win. That being said, it's a lot of fun when you get it down and you're winning races. You get to pick between bumper and third-person views. In a change of what I normally do, I went for bumper view over third-person because it felt more faithful to the French short film that this game is based on. It led to some visceral racing, leading to swerving and weaving that felt intense, and it all felt great to control. When you get into the groove of dodging, it's fun. It's pure arcade racing. Though I will say, unlike the later entries, the crashes here are more tragic than fun. There's no exaggerated physics, and it feels very grim to get into a wreck, so you definitely want to dodge them as much as possible. Besides the championship mode, you have single races and time attacks, and you unlock a few extra modes. You get a face-off mode that has you doing 1v1s. These are nothing new, but allow you to unlock new cars like a giant bus. There is a survival mode, which allows you to see how long you can last without crashing. It's nothing amazing, but it's a nice addition to the game. I think the courses here are fun and are set up well, even though sometimes in the randomness of it all, it feels like you're set up to wreck. There's a ton of blind spots and intersections prone to wrecking. It's all about learning the course and managing your speed. There's not a lot of track, so it's easy to learn what is here. Burnout has issues with its gameplay, particularly with an unfair feeling difficulty curve, but it is fun. Dodging cars and controls are all fast and fluid. When driving, it's a great arcade racer. Issues aside, I think the gameplay is surprising in terms of how replayable it is. Before we move on, I do want to thank you for watching this far in the review. I really appreciate you. If you're enjoying it, please leave a like. It really helps me out in the algorithm. Subscribe to keep up with the retro Xbox content as well. But let's go ahead and continue on. Burnout on the Xbox is a crisp-looking game for a release coming out in the Xbox's first year of life. It supports 480p widescreen. What's nice is the performance of this game, which under certain developers would have significant slowdown. Cars are all over the screen. When you are at intersections, they pile everywhere, and there's no jittering or visual issues. The game runs extremely smooth, and there's an added sense of speed. Especially when you boost, there's a really cool blur effect, and the speedy way this game runs keeps that action fresh. Car models look nice here, though they're not real car models. You can see a basis there. I enjoy the colors in this game in general. It's a game set in cities, and sometimes games will go for a drab look in a city, but here it's always bright and colorful. The lighting shines through and it makes the world you race in pop. It all looks good and has a cartoonish quality that I like about it. It all aesthetically comes together well, though I do wish car crashes felt a bit larger. They'd still do a good job as far as physics go. There's some nice touches like dirt being kicked up by cars or when there's water on the ground. Burnout is full of these little touches that make it feel like driving in the city, and it's a good looking game all around. In terms of sound effects, those are solid. It's your normal revving of engines, brakes, and tire screeching, all of which are replicated well here. In the audio settings of the game, there's an additional headphone mode, and this is great for audio, and I highly recommend playing this way. It helps you appreciate how all the sounds come together to make it a complete environment. Sounds of crashes behind you are quick, and they work for the races, so you know if a rival is crashed right behind you. Small touches like these help make this feel like a complete world. The music isn't amazing though. They are quite cheesy and sound low quality. But here it goes for very light mood music. It gets faster whenever you're low on time, but it never stuck out to me. I feel like this game is missing custom soundtrack support, which would help this out so much. It's not offensively bad, but it's not great like the sound effects. Burnout is a good start for the franchise. The controls are nice and arcadey when you get in a groove, and it can be addicting. The difficulty, though, feels unfair, and some races feel a bit too long. The music could be better, but the game does look great and has some good sound effect work. It's a game with problems, but luckily it's a fun enough game to keep you stuck on it for a little bit, setting up a franchise that would become a favorite for many. On my ranking list of original Xbox games I've covered on the channel, this goes in at number 63 out of the 101 games I've covered so far. I put it above Marvel Nemesis because I think Burnout is more consistently a good time. I put Thrillville above this one because Thrillville has a better variety and multiplayer experience. Burnout came out to generally favorable reviews, according to Metacritic, with a 75 for the Xbox version. However, this is the lowest amount of the bunch, with the GameCube getting a 78 and the PS2 getting a 79, although the Xbox version has the least amount of reviews. IGN gave it a 7.8, with the reviewers stating that they wish there was more content, but it was a blast of a racer. GameSpot gave it an 8, saying it was too short, but intense and entertaining. In the June 2002 issue of Official Xbox Magazine, writer Frank O'Connor said it was hard and the music was terrible, but loved the speed and arcade gameplay. As far as public perception today goes, going off the user aggregate website Backlogged, it holds a 2.8 out of 5 with 900 plays. This is a divisive game, with some having good memories and loving the hectic energy, with others saying it's tedious and too difficult. Even in other places, I find some love for it, and I see some that hate this one. It does live in the shadow of its sequels though, but I think it's fun to see where this series started. Burnout did well enough to start a franchise for Criterion Games. Production for the sequel was quickly underway, but the franchise would take a change once the creative team watched a little movie called The Fast and the Furious. That's a little sign of the wild direction the series would go into and would make some excellent games in the famous franchise that is unfortunately dormant now. But we will continue that story when I review the sequel. But that does wrap it up for today. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, it really helps me out in the algorithm. Subscribe to keep up with more retro Xbox content. Comment below with any Burnout memories. And I want to give a huge shout out to my YouTube channel members. Thank you so much for your support. But I'll see you here next time at Camp Xbox.